So I just got back just a little bit ago from a big conference. It's called ACTS. It's the Appraisal Conference and Trade Show. The National Association of Appraisers and Appraiser eLearning co-host that event. It was in San Antonio, Texas, and we had a great time. Listen, we learned a lot of stuff. We had the URAR class there. We had Lyle and Scott speaking about the new UAD. We had a lot of folks talking about AI technology. That Hansel, I got to get him. Hansel told the audience, hey, what I do when I don't have a lot of time to listen to Bryan Reynolds' podcast, I put the podcast in AI and say, hey, just give me the five top talking points of this. I don't want any of you doing that. I want you listening to the podcast. But it was a great event. Wade did a great job. Brad Bassey helped out with the roping, and just all in all, just a really, really great time. And there was an announcement of the Appraiser of the Year. Kind of a big deal. Pretty nice honor. And when we come back, you're going to meet the Appraiser of the Year. Come on back and join me, won't you? Hi, this is Bryan Reynolds. You're listening to the Appraisal Update Podcast, brought to you as always by the great folks over at Appraiser eLearning. You need some education? Check us out at appraiserelearning.com. We've got lots of education coming up in the next few months, both virtual, online, of course, self-paced. We've even got some live classes coming up, peppered through Kentucky and Tennessee right now, and probably in other locations. And we'll all be offering education opportunities at our national conferences, Val Expo coming up in August, and then again the Appraisal Summit back in Vegas as well. But without further delay, I'd like to invite to my program and introduce you to the Appraiser of the Year, Miss Joanne Apostle. Welcome, Joanne.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, congratulations, first of all. What a great honor, and well deserved, might I add. But if there's somebody watching the program right now and they're not familiar with who Joanne is, give us a little background on you, what it is you do, how long you've been in the business, et cetera, et cetera. Tell the audience a little bit about Joanne.
Well, I'm from Colorado. I began appraising in 2000 after I left public teaching. I taught 7th grade math for 15 years, and I kind of, like a lot of people, just happenstanced into the industry. In 2005, I started teaching appraisal courses for a small local college. In 2008, I became a certified USPAP instructor. And in 2008, I also started my own company. So I left the company that I had been with for 8 years, which is a commercial residential shop. They kind of went a different direction. I went a different direction. And then I got to this national scene after COVID in 2021 because the school that I taught for ended the appraisal product line. And I started going to national conferences looking for a new home to teach as much as anything. But I found so much more. I really did. I found an organization that was working, but not working well. So I kind of pushed for the committee that I was part of for 7 years and never went to a meeting to start having meetings, which kind of rolled into, you were there, Bryan,
Yeah.
You were part of that first meeting with Josh Wallet and Tim Anderson. It's like, to make an organization work well, you have to have people that work well with you. And so I still found a real long time teaching gig, but Josh decided that I would be good at the communications committee. And we started the newsletter. We instigated a new website, and I get stuff for Focus Magazine, and we've been doing those infographics, and that's just NAA.
Yeah, you've done an amazing job with that, and so talk a little bit more in detail about that if we have a listener not familiar with, like, the newsletter, the magazine. what am I typically going to find in the newsletter as it comes out? And what am I going to find in the magazine? Do you have a bank of authors that write for that, or could anybody? I mean, if I've got a viewer right now watching this and says, "My gosh, I got something to say. I'd like to submit an article." Is that something they could do?
Absolutely. So the newsletter is more, and it's kind of morphed. We're in our third year of publishing. So 2023, January was the first one that we did. And it was right after the passing of Dr. Harrison, as you well know. And he was part of the reason why I joined NAA the first year it became an organization. And so the newsletter, because part of the communications was to communicate and educate the membership about the activities going on at NAA. And not a whole lot of communications were coming out of the organization on what we were doing.
Yeah.
And so then that has become a timely, we do conference coverage, we have timely information from what's happening at industry meetings across the nation. We cover what's going on with our board of governors. We have people that go to the TAFAC meetings, to ARROW, to the ASB, to the AQV, and then we also cover what the board of directors and other committees are doing at NAA. And so this is timely news. I have Kevin Hecht we started this year with an economic article. And so that's like one of our main things, it's like every quarter, there's an economic article. And these get attached to the Appraiser e-news that come out to all members if they are on our member list and if they have not hit the unsubscribe button, which is, one of those things, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But usually it comes out in an e-news, e-blast that Teresa sends out to the whole entire list. And it's actually working. I mean, we've got a lot of good feedback via email and in person. I was on a social media site. Somebody was saying, I read this article in the NAA newsletter that Bryan Meredith, actually out of Oregon, wrote about the redlined version of the handbook, 4000.1. And she said, I have this and it is so useful. And so that's kind of what the newsletter is about, if that makes sense.
So let's shift to the magazine a minute. I'm not a writer. I talked about that a lot. I'm a talker. And the thought of sitting down and writing something pains me. Dr. Harrison, you mentioned him a moment ago, he encouraged me one time. He said, Bryan, why don't you write an article, right? Why don't you write something? And he said, he premised it by this, Joanne. He said, how many people do you think you reach in a year? And this was certainly way before podcasts and all the other stuff, the national circuit. I taught in several states, but I said, I don't know, George, a few thousand maybe. He said, well, think if you wrote an article. This magazine has 40,000 subscribers. This one has, He said, think how many you could reach. And then I read a book, Dr. Sanders Kahn, and in his writing, he said, if you're unhappy with any of the writings in this publication, then make yourself happy. Write an article that will stir you and it will stir your colleagues. And it was thanks to Dr. Sandy Kahn and Dr. George Harrison that I wrote my first article. And I'm like, guys, I need a really strong editor because I'm not a writer. So again, back to the question, if somebody is listening or watching this and they're like, I've got something to say, and maybe I'm not the best writer in the world, is that something that they could submit to you? Do you have a good editing team that could take care of any punctuation issues and things like that? And would you encourage somebody to submit an article to you?
I do. In fact, we go out and target certain topics and certain things that we would like to make sure hit. The Focus magazine is really for timeless articles. Since it's hard print and you don't read it online, It's an article that you can pick up at any point in your career and have it there that's going to apply throughout time. And right now we have two from PARIA participants.
Mm.
And so in San Antonio, we were looking for articles from people that have done other avenues into getting your license. I also have an article from somebody that I personally know that's not a member of NAA that has already made the leap from Cert Res to Cert Gen. And so that's kind of forming what we're going to do for that next Focus magazine that gets hard mailed to all of the paying members of this association.
If somebody does want to submit, or they have an idea, or maybe they want to co-author, maybe they want to say, hey Joanne, I've got some thoughts, I've got some ideas, but I need a helping hand. Could we co-author this as opposed to me just taking this on as an endeavor on my own? How would they reach out to you about either that opportunity, or just trying to submit an article to you for possible publication?
Well, for the NAA stuff, you can contact the main information email address at info@naaappraisers.org, or you can email me directly. My email address is deercreekappraisals@msn.com. So that's deer is in the animal, creek is in water, appraisals is plural. I've never done that before, at msn.com. But if you spell my name correctly on a search engine, I'm sure you can find me pretty easy. Lots of people find me.
Yeah.
I'm on Facebook on several groups. I'm also on LinkedIn. So those messaging platforms are also available.
So let's talk about this recognition that you received for a minute. You know, Melinda got up and was talking about your achievements and what you've given back to the profession, and she got a little emotional there a little bit, which was great, to see that she really felt that you were deserving of this. Talk a little bit about what this special recognition. So when I created the Appraiser of the Year award for NAA and the President's Award, because I did that at the same time, I really took that as a kind of copied that off of ATA. They have an Appraiser of the Year award, and I said, we should recognize a special person within our membership that has contributed to the appraisal profession significantly. And just being, in the list of names of the nominees, right, is a big deal. So hats off to all those that were nominated. But I'm just really curious as to what were you surprised, number one, and number two, what in your own words, what does this award mean to you?
Well, yes, I was surprised. And the worst thing for me is when somebody's trying to cry, I can't not cry, which was really difficult when I was going up to the stage. And Melinda didn't actually start tearing up until I arrived at the front table in the conference to take pictures. And I was sitting there just waiting for things to go by, because for the newsletter, I'm trying to get a picture of everything, right? And then she says to Barry, it's like, you might have to read this. And Barry was saying later, I wonder if I have my glasses with me and I'm going to be able to see this or not, right? And so while all this is happening, and then she starts crying, and when she calls me up, she's having a hard time not crying. I'm having a hard time not crying. And I had no clue it was coming, Bryan. Absolutely no clue. And I'm pretty good at it because I raised 5 kids. It's pretty hard to get something past me without me actually having an inkling. And now that I think back on it, the photographer was taking my picture a lot, and I actually stopped and asked her why she was taking my picture so much. And so I don't know if they had said something that they wanted different candid pictures of me, because at all the other conferences, I'm really good at avoiding a photographer because I don't like my picture being taken.
Well, you're the big picture taker a lot of times. I mean, you've bopped into my classes and to document that for, the newsletter or just communications. You do a great job at that. So you normally are the picture taker in many instances.
Exactly. And that's what I was doing at the front of the room. And Kathy Harper's over there with her thing and waving at me. And it's like, that's fine. I'm here to do a job. People try to call me off on taking pictures all the time, and I just don't, you know me well enough. That's what I'm there to do. I'm going to do it, right? And so then, and several people told me as the speech went on, and she started listing the qualifications and everything else, and then kind of the tipping point. And when I got up there, there was a whole row in the whole way back. And I mean, Jason Covington's up there swinging his arm, screaming and yelling, and people are jumping at the back of the room. And I could hardly look over the crowd at all, because Melinda's standing next to me trying to cry. I don't know what Barry's doing because I couldn't look at either one of them, right? And I know I've looked at the pictures. I've got this big frown on my face, and my face is just beet red
Yeah.
because, it was just so much. It really was.
Well,
And
it
then
was.
half the act trying to say, well, I don't know that I really deserve this award, because I have a great team and I actually have great people behind me. My communications committee, they write, they volunteer, we come up with ideas, they enact, and it's not just my vision, it's their vision and it's Melinda's vision. And it was Josh's vision before that. But,
Well, those things may be true, but without a strong leader, nothing's going to happen. So you're humble, and everyone that knows you knows that. But it was very, very well deserved. And I'm going to zoom in on you. Do you happen to have that trophy handy? I'd love for you to show it up, and let everybody see it. Yeah, there it is. Looky there. That's great. That's great.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was so far away with over 300 people at the conference. It was difficult and so it says 2025 National Association of Appraisers Appraiser of the Year for outstanding service, dedication, and devotion to the appraisal profession, not just to NAA. Because, Heather Sullivan was awarded it last year, and she does a lot across all sectors of the appraisal profession,
that's correct.
right?
That's correct.
And
Yeah,
so,
it's not just the NAA. That very well said. Very well said. Well, congratulations. Very well deserved. And I'll tell you, because I was in the back. You might not have been able to see much, but I was in the back and I saw it all. Right. So everyone was clapping, not just Jason Covington throwing the fist pump up there. And you got a standing ovation. People stood up and recognized you and applauded and congratulated you in that fashion. So I'm glad you've come on the program and to talk about it. And I'm not done with you yet. I've got some other questions for you. But what a great honor and what a great well received award for you, Joanne. So again, congratulations to you on
thank
receiving that. Hey, there's been a lot going on in our profession over the last few years, and really, I think since COVID, it's just kind of been a little depressing. We got hit with COVID. Most appraisers actually stayed kind of busy during COVID. It was a couple of years after that the rates started going up and the business started tanking, and let's face it, a lot of appraisers have gotten out of the profession. There's still a lot of uncertainty. Appraisers are still scared and a little fearful. What is your take on the current status of our profession, where we're at today, and where we're going tomorrow?
Really interesting question. Change is inevitable, and right now we are on the precipice of a large change with a UAD 3.6.
Mm-hmm.
We've been reeling from the bias complaints, fair housing regulations, and I don't think anything's really stopped since COVID, except maybe our work. I just read a thing this morning in the Appraisal Institute update where Scott DiBiasio is saying, "Why are you blaming appraisers?" And we've gotten the blame for a lot, right? One of the things that I used to tell people that were getting into this industry is you just have to learn to have thick skin. But, with the whole environment nationally of being at odds with the politics, with everything that's going on in the industry with the changes, with the Fannie Mae letters and different things like that. I think people are just resisting change and fighting, if that makes sense. And a lot of them just aren't well informed. I think that's the big thing. And that's where we try to let people know what's going on into this industry. The conferences bring the latest tech, the latest information on the UAD 3.6, bring in the software people. They had those demonstrations on their new forms. Some of them are ready, some of them are not. Being available to ask questions to get more comfortable in this, what's going on. And I
Yeah.
think that's part of it is people are just need to get out of their, in Colorado we have basements, and I know you probably don't have those
Oh,
where
we
you
do.
are.
We have basements in Kentucky. Yeah, I'm very familiar with basements here. Texas, they don't have basements, but
No,
Kentucky we do.
basically, it's just saying, you got to get out of your basement or your office. A lot of residential appraisers are single person offices. They don't network a lot. They take their CE online. I mean, I can't tell you how many first time attendees came up to me after that presentation. And this one young lady walked out. I was standing outside and she said, I know nobody here, but I know you because you're the appraiser of the year. And
Oh,
why I want to join or be part of this. And what an opportunity that is.
mm-hmm.
What an opportunity that is. And I got to talk with her. I got to talk with a girl out of Florida, was her first conference. I taught, Sergio invited me to the ADI tables at lunch, talking about those new people coming into the industry. Um, and here's the deal, Bryan, and I've heard it lots and lots. And honestly, I'm on that precipice too. Am I going to jump into the technology and keep doing this for years, or am I going to be out? Because I'm 62. My parents died working. I don't want to be that way, you know? So is there room in this industry to come in, advance, and get moving? And there absolutely is. There always has been.
Yeah,
I mean, I've been in it for 25 years, and people that have been in it longer than I say, well, when I got in, they said appraisers are never going to survive. And here
yeah,
we are 40, 50 years later, we're still here,
that's right. That's
right?
right. You know
And we
what's
just need to make it relevant.
what's interesting. You said thick skin, and I believe that to be very, very true. And it's hard because sometimes we take things very personal, and I give you a little insight. I don't know why I'm telling this, but I just got a call the other day, and they said you need to move. so so I'm going to be moving offices, right? And the gentleman took over from Madison here locally. He's in North Carolina. He said, I nice to meet you over the phone. And he said, this is a hard call. And I said, listen, this is business. I'm a big boy. I can take it. I'm the one that decided to rent month to month after my 3-year lease expired, 6 years ago, whenever it was. I said, I've had to make hard calls too. I said, I don't take this personal. This is strictly business. And he was very gracious. They're trying to find me a new place, and it's gonna be fine. It's a change, and I'm comfortable here. I don't want to move, but we'll figure it out. And change can be an opportunity. It might be a new, better view than where I'm at today, right? So the staff has been looking at places, and I said, hey, y'all are in the office a lot more than I am. Find a place you like, and we'll figure it out. The only reason I didn't renew because I thought about buying, and those opportunities went out the door. So anyway, it's one of those things that we do get comfortable and we resist change. But change is going to happen. What's interesting, Jason Covington, I was talking the other day, and two things about him. Number one, he resisted getting involved with the NAA, coming to a national I begged him, Joanne, for years. And now look at him, right?
Exactly.
He's waving the NAA flag. He's very involved and very happy that he is. And he's like, gosh, why didn't I listen to you years ago, right? But one of the other things he and I were chatting about the other day, and it was from the conference. One of the software providers said, do you know that probably 25 to 30% of appraisers that's the total that are mobile out in the field.
Yeah,
And
that's
Jason,
what Joel.
yeah. And Jason just became mobile recently, just a few months ago. And now he's all over it. He called me, you won't believe this. I've learned this, and he's, Jay, he's pretty excitable. But he said, that means 70 to 75% of appraisers have never done anything mobile out in the field. You're holding up paper. So, so man, it's going to be a culture shock to those folks, right?
Yes.
So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Hey, so we're running out of time, but two things. Number one, if somebody's watching or listening and they're not in our space, they're not appraisers, but they've thought about it. They've thought about getting into this profession. What would you look into the camera and say to that person right now?
It's well worth the marathon, but it's not a sprint. This is a long-term commitment. It is a career. It's not a job, which means you have to continually strive to do better, and you will learn a lot, and you'll never know everything to know in this industry. There's just no way to do it. I mean, I tutor people for the national exam. I do use PAP consulting. I do teaching, and I do my own appraising, as well as what I do for NAA. I'm also the education chair of a Colorado organization, and we're looking at the same things as far as change and how do we help our membership through this? Who can we bring in? What education needs to be there? What can we do, right? Because, even new people can teach an old dog a few new tricks,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
the trainee event at AX was so great because they took them on a field trip. And I helped with some of the infographics that they gave those folks. And some of them were talking points for supervisors. What could you talk what are talking points that you could discuss with an existing appraiser to help gain you a supervisor?
The cool thing about that, and I didn't get to attend, I had a conflict, but when you said a field trip, they actually bus people out to a house to do it.
Multiple.
Multiple houses, okay, and I know some of them were new construction, but you basically went through the appraisal inspection during that field trip. Is that right? Is that
I was not able to attend either,
yeah?
but the feedback from everyone that went is this has to happen more often. So Joel Baker was there doing mobile inspections. There were ample supervisors showing people how the software worked. What do you look at? Having conversations about the stages of inspections, stages of construction, because you can read it in a book. And yes, there's virtual things that they do, but, you know, it's like they had booties they had to wear inside. It's make sure you get your booties on, because thank God there wasn't a whole lot of rain, but you and I have been in
Oh yeah.
mud how many times, as have all existing appraisers that do stuff.
What's interesting about that? Maybe we need to have a conversation about that, Joanne. I bet there's some folks listening right now, maybe 20-year veterans that are thinking, I'd like to go on that field trip. I would like to go see that, especially with the mobile, right? So, gosh, maybe we think about that at one of our upcoming conferences. We don't limit it to trainees. We allow anybody to come, and we're going to show you mobile appraising out in the field. I bet there'd be a lot of interest in that. We'll probably all think about that.
Just like the software demonstrations, not all of them showed the 3.6. Some of them just went, what improvements have we done in the last 2-3 years that you may not know about,
Yeah.
right? Since you bought it. And, change again is hard. People into a software and they stay with the software. And just having maybe demonstrations on what mobile appraising can look like, what's the process, and that kind of stuff, because that's one of the things that we're looking at in our little organization is maybe an intro to mobile for those that have never done it, but then an advanced, how can you make your workflow faster, easier? How can you use, not all the software programs have them, but I know that Total and a la mode have a work file capability.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then, and what are the inspections, and having all of the providers that do the different inspection apps and have those different, doing those demonstrations so that those that use a certain, if you only bring in one, half the crowd's left out,
Right.
so to speak.
Right.
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 And so, it could be a pre-conference day, just like it was with the software, and you just focus on mobile, like they did in San Antonio,
Yeah. I
where
think
they
that's a great idea.
travel around.
I think it's a great idea. Hey, last question. If there's someone watching right now or listening and they've never been to an appraisal conference, right? They're like Jason. They're pulling a Jason on me. Why should I go? It's a lot of money. And I went to every ACTS conference there is. I've been to every summit except for one. But I can kind of relate to that appraiser that's thinking this. I got to pay a registration. I got to get there. But more importantly, I really kind of got to shut my office down for the length of time I'm out there getting the education. Yeah, I get some education, but I really want to know what's the benefit of me closing my office down, paying this money to get out there, as opposed to just taking something virtual or something down the street here. Joanne, what do you say to that person that's never been to a conference, that at least we've tweaked their interest this much and they're considering it? What do you say to them?
I say that it's way more than education. It is knowledge. It is invigorating. It is networking. It's collaboration, and it's getting in front of the latest technologies that are out there and available to make your job easier on a daily basis.
Yeah, I'm going to throw up on the screen real quick, and I'm keeping you late. I apologize, but I think this is important. So let me just put this up real quick. This is the Appraiser eLearning website, right? Just appraiserelearning.com. This is our homepage. And what I want to just focus on is if you go to the tab up here at the top called Live Events and you click on that, you can see the conferences coming up. We just finished San Antonio, so that'll be sliding off here soon. The next conference is Val Expo. That's August 11th through the 13th at Caesars. We'd love to have you there. And if you click on that, it takes you to the Val Expo page and tells you everything about that conference, okay? And then if we go back to the Appraiser eLearning site, we look at the live events, and you come down here. This is the next NAA Appraiser eLearning conference called the Appraisal Summit. It's also in Las Vegas. It's at Planet Hollywood Resort, and it's September 27th through the 30th. And again, you can page through that and see the schedule and the conference sponsors and all of that information as well. So we would encourage you to check that out. Joanne, thank you so much for being here. The Appraiser of the Year. Big deal, big deal, big deal. If somebody wants to reach out to you and pick your brain or submit an article or hire you as a consultant or a coach, what's the best way for somebody to get in touch with Miss Joanne?
Email is usually the best, and my company is Deer Creek Appraisals. So deer is in the animal, creek is in water, appraisals is plural. You can find me on the web or my company name at msn.com.
Thank you again, Joanne, for being here. Thank you for all that you do for the appraisal profession. It's the countless hours that you've devoted to this profession. It's obviously not unrecognized because you received a big award, and congratulations once again. Thanks for being here.
Well, as you know, the whole board voted on who got it, so more than one person.
Congratulations, Joanne. Thanks for being here.
Thanks again, Bryan.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching or listening to the Appraisal Update podcast brought to you by Appraiser eLearning. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're staying safe. I hope you come to a conference. Come up, say hello to me, grab me, shake my hand. Come up and meet the Appraiser of the Year. Meet Joanne. We would love to see you in Las Vegas coming up in August and then again in September. Please join us. Until next time, stay safe, make some money, get you a little mini vacation if you need one, and happy appraising.
The Appraisal Update podcast is brought to you by Appraiser eLearning.